Now we discuss Scala collections. Collections means data structure which can handle a collection of items like a list and other things. So let's see. First collection type in Scala is a list, and this is how we create a list in Scala, and this is one way. Say we want a list with 3 items, 3 integers 21, 32, 3. You can just write list with a pair of parentheses and give those 3 items. And then my list is a variable which is immutable type, right? We understand val is immutable, and that variable refers to or points to a list with 3 items, correct? And then if you want to access the second item of the list, you can say my list index 1. So index of list starts with 0, so the second item is at index 1. So remember that list is a collection data structure which is an ordered data structure, right? And it is also indexed like array in C++, correct? Okay, so the result of my list index 1 is 32. This also shows that is an integer type. So maybe it's a good idea to run this piece of code on my Scala system so that you can get a better feeling. So let me start over. Maybe let's clear this, and then this is my Scala, and I am doing the same thing here, and you see that my list is created, and there are those 3 items, right? Now if we want to access the last item what we can of the list, what we can do, we can say my list and then index 2, right? Index 0, 1, 2, and then the result should be 3, which is of integer type. Okay, now let's go back. And what other examples we have here? We have another list which has a mixture of items, some integers and one string. So if we try to do create a list like that, Scala will understand it is not of type integers, it is of type any. So that is a magic which is happening here, correct? So Scala automatically understands that the type of the items in the list are not integers, not string, it's more generic, and Scala assigns that to make it any type. Okay, so any is like the mother type of all types in Scala system, correct? And we see the result. Now if we want to access the last item in the list, we can say my list 2, and remember that when Scala returns that item, it is of type any. Make sense? Okay. The second collection which Scala supports, second collection type, that is set. If you remember the set concept in math, it's almost like that. So what we learned in math, a set is an unordered collection, correct? So the order should not matter. Now let's take an example. So animals is a variable which points to a set of 3 items, these 3 integers, correct? So maybe this time also let me create this on my Scala system. Let's go back there and let's see what happens. Oh, it also gives us some more information, right? It says that this is a set of 3 items, and the whole type information of that set is immutable.set. So scala.collection.immutable, that is the full path name. It somehow tells us that this is an immutable set of strings, correct? And it has 3 items. Now what else we had there? We had a set addition operation, right? So we are trying to add one item to the set. Let's see what happens on this, and we somehow get an error. I have no idea why the error. Oh, because when we have created the first set, that time we forgot to give this variable name animals, right? So let me redo that step, and now we are ready. And now we should be able to add these extra item armadillos to that set. And here you see that a new set is created which has 4 items. Make sense, right? Similarly, if we want to subtract an item from the set, say I want to subtract lions, then I can just do that, and you see that the original set was this: lions, tigers, bears, and lions got subtracted, and the resulting set is this one. Okay. One very interesting thing to notice here, that when we do this addition or subtraction, a new resultant set is created with extra items or less item. The original set animals is still the same. So let me double check that. So this original set still have these 3 items, right? One thing to notice, that the original item set is an immutable data structure. So anyway, that should not change, right? If somebody wants to change that, Scala will give us error. So here what we are changing, we are adding a new item to the original set and create a new set which has nothing to do with this original set. Similarly, the other set. Okay, this is very important point to remember. Now, what about to add another set with the existing set? Does this work? So let me copy this and then let me go there. Does that work? And Scala complains that it does not work. So to add another set, you have to use this special operation, operator, that is plus plus, and this time this new set will be added with the original set, and we can get these 5 items in another new set, right? That is how things work. To subtract things from, say, the previous set, say the previous original set was this, right? Lions, tigers, bears. I'm subtracting lions, something, and something else. So that should work, and you see that the lions got subtracted, right? If you remember how set operation works in math, almost same thing happening here, correct? Okay. So we are done with collection type 2 set. Now, as I said before, that set is an unordered data structure. So this left hand side should be equal to right hand side, right? Let's test this. Does that work? Let me go there again and type set 1, 2, 3 is equal set 2, 3, 1. And that should be true, right? So we see that, but that is not true for the list type. So let's test that, because why? Because list is an ordered data structure, correct? So that is false. The very important point to remember. Okay. Sorry for that. Now the third collection type is map. This is just plural. I'm sorry. The third collection type is map. Here it's just plural. I'm using maps. Now there are 2 types of maps. One is immutable map, and how to get an example of immutable map? You can say a variable is equal to map, then a bunch of key value pairs. So one thing to notice first, that map is a collection which holds a set of key value pairs, like Ruby hash, a set of key value pairs, right? So here 3 pairs of key value pair, I mean three key value pairs are there. The first key is 0, value is 0, the string. Then second key is 1, value is string 1, and so on, right? Okay. After creating that, if you want to know what is the value for the key 2, then you can say this variable, the map name, and then the key 2, and that will give you the value for that corresponding key, which is string 2, correct? Okay. And the other type of map which you can work with depending on your application, that is a mutable map. And how to create a mutable map? You can say scala.collection.mutable.map. Remember, this was immutable by default, and to get unmutable you have to say scala.collection.mutable.map, and then you can give a bunch of key value pairs like this. So that creates an mutable map. Okay. You can also use a hash map, another data structure in the Scala library, that is also a mutable map. And this is the way to create a hash map. You can say new, then scala.collection.mutable hash map. And in this particular example, if our key is integer and value is string, then we have to say this is my type of key and value in a pair of third brackets. Okay, so that is how to initialize a map. And then to populate this map, you can use this plus equal operator. That is like you are adding a key value pair to your existing map, and this is the key and this is the value. So I am adding one key value pair to my existing map. You can add more key value pair and another key and value I am adding. So after these two operations, and remember here we have created a new map which has nothing at this point, and then we have added this key value pair and that key value pair. So at this point the map should have only two key value pairs, right? And you can check it out, and that's shows us that those two key value pairs are there, right? So this is a brief introduction to map. And to summarize, we have two types of map. One is immutable map, where once the map is created, you cannot change that map in high level. And the other type is mutable, where you can change, you can add key value pairs to the map, or you can subtract key value pairs from the map. Okay. So depending on your application scenario, you should choose which type you need. Remember, Scala is a bridge between object-oriented programming, which is about mutating variable, and that scenario you can use mutable map. And the other end of the spectrum, that Scala is a bridge between object-oriented programming and function programming. So other end is functional programming, and there we should use immutable map. Makes sense, right? Okay. More details. Things are very interesting here. So this shows you different combinations of using a val type variable and working with an immutable map, and also var type variable and working with immutable map. And I believe we also have val type variable and mutable map, right? So you can see different combinations are there. Now let's see what is the main message here. So I will work on the system with this example. So first let me copy this line and go to my Scala system, and maybe I can clear this little bit, it's too much here. So let's start it again. And this was the line, right? So we are creating a val variable x, and we are assigning a mutable map to x. What sort of items this map has? 3 key value pairs, right? Okay. So x now has these 3 key value pairs. That's good. Now let's see what we are trying to do. We are trying to add another key value pair, that is 4 is the key and JKL is the value. So let's see, does that work? And it seems it works. Why? Because it was a mutable map, so we can add a key value pair. So what is the new X? If I print new X, we can see that this new key value pair 4JKL that got added to the map, right? Because it was mutable and everything was fine. Okay, so now let's take the next item, which is here. And again, let me go here, and here we are trying to create an immutable map and assigning that to a val type variable, right? So here X is an immutable map which has these 3 items. Now if we want to do the same thing with this immutable map, let's see what happens. And Scala gives us error because this was an immutable map. We cannot change, we cannot mutate this map. We cannot add an extra key value pair, right? Now there is little subtlety here. Let me explain that. So let's take the next line and come here. And here you see the difference is X is a VAT type variable, right? But X is assigned to an immutable map in this line. Okay, now the situation is that as X is a VAT type variable, you can change X. You can say X plus plus another map which has a key value pair, and mind that if you give this, that will be also an equivalent thing. So you are trying to add a key value pair with your existing X, and X was a VAT type, so X can now refer to another object which has an extra key value pair. So let's see, does that work? And it works. And what is X now? X is another object which has another map which has 4 key value pairs. And remember, similarly what we have seen before, that the original map which has these 3 items that was immutable, that still is sitting in memory. We are not changing that, but we are creating another map with an extra key value pair, and X is just referring to this new object now. Why that is allowed? Because X was VAT type, so X can refer to a new object in memory, right? So think about it, it's very subtle. Okay, so now let's come back, and we are done with this. Maybe it's a good idea to do an exercise. Create a text file, say item.txt, and copy these 4 lines there. It basically says computer whose ID is ID1, value is $100, pen ID2, value is $5, another computer ID3, value is $110, another pen ID4, value is $7, and so on. There can be other 100 items in this file. So what is the task here? We want to categorize this file. So we want to say computer comma what is the total price of all the computers. So instead of saying ID 100 and ID 310, we want to add these 2 numbers, and if other computers are there in the file, we want to add all them together, and we want to report the aggregate one in this way. Make sense? Similarly for pen. So that will be the output after your processing. Now what sort of program we need? If you think a little bit more, you will understand that using a hash data structure, right, like Ruby's hash or Scala's map, which supports key value pair, that helps us, because computer can become the key and value can be 100 here, and then again when we experience another computer, so same key, we can increment the value, which was 100 with 110, and that can become 210, right? Similarly, for pen key, we can aggregate all the pens using that key value pair, right? So that is why this can be a good example code to solve this problem. Let me quickly go over this. This can be your first example where you use a Scala map data structure, and as we want to change the value of the key in the middle, right? So that's why we want to use a mutable map, which is scala.collection.mutable.hashmap. Okay, so you can include these two libraries. So this is to read things from file, and this is the mutable map. And start an object, name it class, and this is the main function. Create a var type map, call it my map, and this is initialized here, so nothing is there. Now just this one line can read from this text file and can give you all the lines in the file. So after this line is executed, you have all the lines in the text file which you are trying to process, and that is now stored in this variable line iterator. Then use a for loop which can go over each line in that line iterator, right? And then get one line, and you can split it using the white space delimiter, and that can give you the list of words in each line, right? Now remember, the item was the first item in each line, right? So to get the first item in the list, you can say list 0 and get the item. The price was the third item, right? So you can say list 2 to get that price of the current line item's price. And then you can check your map, does it already contain this item? If it does not, which this is the not symbol, then you can add this key value pair. The item is the key and the value is price, which is a string because you are reading from the file, so you can convert that to an integer using toInt, and this is the key and this is the value, and this key value pair is added to this map, right? And in the other case, when your map already has this key, then what you should do, you should just access the key in that map, right? That means that will give you the value, and change the value, add the current price to that value using this plus equal operator, right? So after this brace where I believe this for loop is ending here, right? We have processed all the lines, all the items in the file, and the my map data structure is fully populated. Then you can just visit the my map data structure using this for each function, which is a higher order function. We learned that soon, and for each one you can just print what is the item there, right? And that was our task.